claimed by the billionaire. One night, one drink, one dangerous man who would change everything. The neon sign of Murphy's Tavern flickered against the Chicago rain as Sarah Chen pushed through the heavy wooden door, her nurse scrubs still damp from the storm. After 14 hours at Northwestern Memorial, all she wanted was one drink to wash away the taste of hospital coffee and the memory of Mrs. Rodriguez's family crying in the hallway. The dive bar was nearly empty, just a few regulars nursing their sorrows, and a man in an expensive suit sitting alone at the far end, looking as out of place as a Rolex in a thrift store. Sarah claimed a bar stool 3 seats down and ordered a whiskey neat. "Rough day?" The stranger's voice was smooth, tinged with exhaustion that matched her own. Sarah glanced over. He was handsome in that polished way that screamed money, sharp jawline, dark hair that probably cost more to cut than she made in a day, but his eyes held something raw, almost desperate. "Lost a patient," she said simply, taking a sip that burned perfectly. 7-year-old, sometimes this job. "I'm sorry." He seemed to mean it. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Blackwell." The name should have meant something. Chicago's golden boy, heir to Blackwell Industries, worth more than some small countries. But Sarah just nodded. "Sarah." "What do you do, Sarah?" "Pediatric ICU nurse. You?" Marcus hesitated, and for a moment she thought she saw something flicker across his face. "I'm between jobs." They talked until closing time, about everything and nothing. He made her laugh, really laugh, for the first time in weeks. When the bartender called last call, Marcus walked her to her beat-up Honda Civic in the rain. "This might sound crazy," he said, water dripping from his hair, "but would you like to have coffee sometime? Actual coffee, not whatever they serve at hospitals." Sarah studied his face in the streetlight. There was something vulnerable there, hidden beneath the expensive facade. "I get off at 7 tomorrow. There's a diner on Clark Street. Millie's. Nothing fancy." "Perfect." As she drove home to her cramped apartment in Wicker Park, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus Blackwell, though she still didn't know his last name, was running from something. She just didn't know what. The next evening, Marcus was already waiting in a corner booth when she arrived, having traded his suit for jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than her rent. He looked younger, less guarded. "How was your day?" he asked, as she slid into the cracked vinyl seat. "Better, yours?" "Interesting, I quit my job today." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "That's either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both." Marcus smiled ruefully. "My father thinks I'm having a midlife crisis at 32. Over coffee and pie, the story came out in pieces. Marcus had inherited his position at his family's company, but every day felt like wearing someone else's clothes. The board meetings, the charity galas, the careful choreography of wealth, none of it felt real. "So what do you want to do?" Sarah asked. "I used to want to teach history, but my father said teachers don't build empires." "Maybe empires are overrated." Their coffee dates became regular. Marcus would show up at Millie's after her shifts, sometimes still in his nurse scrubs, and they'd talk until the diner closed. He never mentioned his wealth, never flashed his black credit card or name, dropped his family's connections. With Sarah, he was just Marcus, funny, thoughtful, surprisingly well-read. 3 weeks in, he met her roommate Jake, a struggling artist who painted murals for local businesses. Marcus bought one of his pieces, a vibrant depiction of Chicago's skyline, without haggling over the price. "I like him," Jake told Sarah later. "He doesn't act like he's slumming it with us regular folks." But Sarah was starting to suspect Marcus wasn't regular folks at all. The watch he tried to hide under his sleeves, the way he never seemed concerned about money, the careful way he avoided talking about his family or where he lived. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday evening in October. Sarah was grabbing takeout from their usual Thai place when she saw him on the TV mounted above the counter. Marcus Blackwell, son of billionaire industrialist Robert Blackwell, photographed at some charity gala with a stunning blonde draped on his arm. "Youngest CEO in the company's history," the reporter was saying. "Those sources close to the family say he's been MIA from board meetings for the past month." Sarah's stomach dropped. The takeout container slipped from her hands, splattering pad thai across the linoleum floor. She drove straight to Millie's, where Marcus was waiting in their usual booth, scrolling through his phone with a frown. "Rough day?" he asked, looking up with that smile that had become so familiar. "You could say that." Sarah sat down hard. "Marcus Blackwell." His face went pale. "Sarah." "Billionaire CEO Marcus Blackwell. That Marcus Blackwell." "I can explain." "Can you? Because I've been thinking I was dating some regular guy who's trying to figure out his life. Not Chicago's most eligible bachelor, who was just slumming it with the working class for entertainment. It's not like that." His voice was desperate now. "Everything I told you, it's all true. I did quit. I'm trying to figure out who I am without the company, without my father's expectations." "And the blonde from the charity gala." Marcus closed his eyes. "Victoria Ashworth, my father's choice for a daughter-in-law. I haven't seen her in weeks, but she keeps showing up to events as my date. The photographers eat it up." Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. "So what am I, Marcus? Your rebellion phase? Your walk on the wild side before you marry the socialite?" "No." He reached across the table, but she pulled her hands away. "Sarah, these past few weeks with you, they're the first time I've felt like myself in years. You see me, not my bank account or my family name. Because you lied to me. I omitted things. There's a difference. Is there? Because I told you about my student loans, about working double shifts to make rent, about growing up with a single mom who cleaned office buildings to put me through nursing school. I told you everything, and you told me nothing." Marcus looked stricken. "I wanted to tell you, but every time I tried, I remembered how different people act when they know, the way they calculate what they can get from me, how they change. So you decided I'd change too. I was protecting what we had." Sarah stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "What we had was based on a lie. I don't even know who you really are." She left him sitting there and didn't look back. For 2 weeks, Marcus called and texted. He sent flowers to the hospital, showed up at her apartment building until Jake threatened to call the cops. Sarah ignored it all, throwing herself into work and trying to forget the way he'd made her laugh, the way he'd listened to her stories about difficult patients and impossible doctors like they mattered. Then Emma Hartwell, age 6, came into her ICU. The little girl had been in a car accident, her working-class family overwhelmed by medical bills they couldn't afford. Sarah had seen it before. Good people destroyed by circumstances beyond their control. Emma needed experimental treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, a procedure that cost more than her father made in 5 years. That's when Dr. Patterson pulled Sarah aside. "The Hartwell girl's treatment has been covered," he said, looking puzzled. "Anonymous donor. Full coverage, plus family expenses while she recovers." Sarah's heart skipped. She knew somehow before Dr. Patterson handed her the donor information sheet. Blackwell Foundation. Anonymous Pediatric Medical Fund. That evening, she found Marcus at Murphy's Tavern, sitting in the same spot where they'd first met. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in days. "The Hartwell family," she said, sliding onto the stool beside him. He didn't look at her. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Marcus, I set up the fund 3 years ago. After my mother died of cancer, the family had nothing to do with it." Sarah studied his profile. "How did you know about Emma?" "I didn't. The fund covers any pediatric case at Northwestern Memorial that meets certain criteria. Has for years." He finally turned to look at her. "I never used it to impress anyone before, Sarah, I swear." They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken words between them. "I grew up in Chinatown," Sarah said finally, "above my grandmother's restaurant. My mum worked 3 jobs to keep me in school. I learned early that people with money see people like us as invisible, or worse, as entertainment. I've never seen you as invisible. But you saw me as someone who couldn't handle your truth." Marcus winced. "My last girlfriend sold our private conversations to a tabloid. The one before that tried to steal family documents. I know that's not you, but you lumped me in with them anyway. I was scared." His voice was barely audible. "What we had, it was real. The realest thing in my life. I didn't want to lose it." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. So you chose to lose it by lying instead. Sarah, please. I know I screwed up. I know I don't deserve another chance. But these 2 weeks without you... He turned to face her fully. I love you. Not the idea of you. Not some fantasy. You. The woman who stays late to read stories to scared kids, who argues with doctors twice your age when your patients need something, who makes terrible jokes when she's nervous. You love someone who doesn't exist. You love the version of me that didn't know who you really were. Then let me love all of you, the real you, the one who's angry and hurt and has every right to be. Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Emma's going to be okay. Her parents cried for an hour when they got the news. Good. The fund, how many kids has it helped? 112 as of last month. Sarah closed her eyes. This was the Marcus she'd fallen for. Not the billionaire heir, but the man who quietly helped children he'd never meet. The problem was, they were the same person. I need to know, she said. Is this real for you? Not the excitement of dating outside your social circle, not the novelty of someone who doesn't want your money. Is this, am I, real for you? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Sarah's breath caught. I bought this before you found out who I was, he said, setting it on the bar between them. Not because I thought money could fix this, but because I was going to tell you everything, about the company, about my family, about the fund. I was going to ask you to build something real with me, knowing exactly who we both are. Sarah stared at the box. Marcus, I'm not asking you to answer now. I'm asking you to think about it, about us. The real us, all our messy, complicated, beautiful reality. The rain had started again outside Murphy's tavern. Sarah looked at the man beside her, billionaire CEO, anonymous philanthropist, the guy who made her laugh until her sides hurt and listened to her worst days like they mattered. One condition, she said. No more lies, ever, even the ones you think will protect us. Deal. Sarah picked up the velvet box, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a simple solitaire diamond, elegant but not ostentatious, chosen with care rather than expense in mind. It's beautiful, she whispered. Is that a yes? That's a maybe. Take me home, Marcus Blackwell. The real Marcus Blackwell. Let's see if he's someone I can love. As they walked out into the Chicago rain together, Sarah realized that sometimes the most dangerous men aren't the ones who lie about who they are. They're the ones who make you want to discover who you could become.